So I believe a lot of us make choices early in life that feel smart, they feel responsible, they even feel necessary. But damn if they don't end up costing you something. And I know this to be true because it happened to me and several of my friends. So I'm going to tell you that on the surface, this is going to look like a cliche comeback story. There's divorce and debt, and that is not what this is about. This is about losing something way more dangerous than all of that. And that would be identity. But not identity theft. I'm talking about identity drift. Identity drift is not a sucker punch. It's really more like death by butter knife. Think back. There was a part of your life where you made small, responsible decisions that were laced with compromises and concessions and negotiations. The kind that actually feel mature in the moment. That's identity drift. So for me, by the time I fully saw it, I was already 33. 33. My 10-year marriage was over. I had about, $40K in credit card debt. Nothing saved, no assets, no savings, no 401K. I had nothing. I was less than zero. On the surface, it just looked like I was going through a rough patch, a rough season. But like I said, that's not what this video is about. In reality, in the midst of all of that noise, there was a bigger problem looming. And that was that I had no idea who I was attempting to become. I had no idea, physically, spiritually, even professionally. I couldn't name it. That's really important to note because that was the part that scared me the most. It wasn't just the debt. It wasn't just the divorce. Those were symptoms. The chronic illness was the collapse of my identity. And here's the dangerous part. Nothing catastrophic happened that got me to that point. There wasn't a problem with addiction. There wasn't a scandal. There wasn't neglect. I wasn't a gambler. There were just these decisions, responsible ones too, logical ones, the kind that you make when you're trying to be a good husband, a provider, a great father, a dependable guy. And every one of them made sense at the time. But now I wonder if I was being honest with myself in terms of thinking through the unintended consequences. Because each one of those decisions moved me slightly away of who I thought I was becoming. And just imagine that for a moment. You believe you're becoming one thing, but you're actually turning it to something completely different. I honestly believe the most dangerous moments in life is when becoming and collapsing are happening at the same time during these identity drifts. You see, you don't abandon the dream during an identity drift, you just postpone it. 23 to 33, that's when it happened to me. Those 10 years are when who you hoped you'd be transitions to who you decide you are. And the scary part, without even realizing it, is that you begin to let other people make decisions for you. Let me tell you something. At 23 years old, I thought my life was inevitable. I had momentum. I had belief. I thought I knew exactly where I was headed. And somewhere over the course of those next 10 years, I slowly handed the pen to everybody else. At 23, I wasn't drifting. I was soaring. I really believed that I was on the path to being a player in the music business. I just knew that if I had stayed the course, it was just a matter of time. And let me tell you something, folks. At 23, that's what a great start looks like. Because really, even at that point, it's not about the fame. It's not about the money. It's the fact that you have so much certainty. And then life starts to happen. So we were young. She was 20. I was 23. What we were calling love back then was probably really something else. It was comfortable. It was convenient. It was a couple of young people trying to build certainty with each other. And somewhere in there, dependence started masquerading itself as devotion. And 3 months go by after we got married and we found out we're having a baby. Now, here's what's important around that. There wasn't some dramatic event between us where I said, okay, I guess that's it. We're having a baby. The dream is over. I was excited. I was going to be a dad and a rock star. That's how I saw it. So I did what responsible guys do. Ended up in a small apartment. I took a steady job, The plan was pretty simple. Stabilize for a bit, stash some money away, get back to the vision. I told myself I'd get back to it. Life became a series of urgent needs that slowly ate away at this vision that I had for myself. But I was not giving up. In my mind, the music didn't die. I just kept pushing it out, moving it to later. And that's how the identity drift begins. It's not with abandonment, it's with postponement. I'm going to get back to it. That sentence is way more dangerous than quitting. And I'll tell you why. Because quitting is conclusive. Postponing, now that feels mature and responsible. Identity drift doesn't announce itself. And so you don't quite abandon the dream. You postpone it. Later becomes your favorite word. And then before you know it, the person you wanted to be at 23 is just a shadow of itself. And that's how the drift works. It's subtle. You drift away and you drift back. You drift away a little bit further, you drift back. And each time you drift away, you drift a little further, a little further. For me, after that first drift, things started moving pretty fast, but not in a way that felt like progress for me. Every compromise for stability slowly reshaped me. My skill, my talent, my fire, they were still there, but they just kept getting pushed further and further down. And before I knew it, I was becoming very skilled in something I never really wanted to build my life around. Now, there was a second identity drift for me. She wanted to move back east to be near her mother, and I was getting noticed by a talent agent for some work that I was doing in a local theater group. Now, I'm not saying that passing up on a steady job back east to try my hand at acting would have been the responsible thing to do. I'm just saying that none of these decisions came with a plan for how I would stay connected to me. I wasn't making good decisions. I was making safe ones, ones that made everyone happy. I was building a man that I was not meant to be. By 30, I was successful, at least on paper. 6 figures, heavy responsibility, traveling about 40 weeks a year. I was living out a life someone else had mapped out for me while I kept telling myself that I was making the right choices. But I wasn't preparing myself for what could happen if the bubble burst. And it was about to happen. Money was leaking like a sieve. Stress was coursing through my veins. Dependence on her mother to cover the months that we were underwater. And all the time I was pretending everything was fine. I was convincing myself it was fine. But deep down I knew that it wasn't. And that's when the cracks became impossible to ignore. The debt, the marriage unraveling, the doors closing on my music, my identity was disappearing under the weight of a decade of compromises. And then it was over at 33. Everything that I thought defined me, my identity, my direction, my sense of certainty, my relationships, all of it had slipped away. And I had been living other people's expectations, postponing what mattered for me, trading vision for stability, trading me for responsibility. And for what? To end up back at the starting line with nothing but crumbs in my bread basket? Now, let's bring this full circle, because make no mistake, I own all of this, all of it. These were decisions that had to be made, and I made them. I had lost a lot, for sure, but what I lost that stung the most was the authorship of my life. During those 10 years, I had slowly retooled who I was becoming, and now I wasn't sure how to move forward when everything that had defined me over the past 10 years was gone. And to make matters worse, I was so torn between how I was feeling internally and how I thought I needed to appear externally that I was sure that I couldn't hold on much longer. I mean, what would have been the point anymore? Who I wanted to be and what I became were light years apart. But how do I do it? How do I no longer live with this emptiness, this sense of failure, this horrible pit in my soul that God had abandoned me? And that's when I realized something. If I wanted to get back to who I was meant to be, I couldn't chase the money, I couldn't chase the career, I couldn't chase survival. I had to just start getting my head straight and start working within. With that recognition, I saw a glimmer of hope. Now, someone showed up in my life and asked me a question that completely reframed my thinking. Didn't extend a plan, not a roadmap, not even a guarantee. It was just a question. And that question got me thinking. Could I find myself again? Could I get back the pen that I had given away 10 years ago? And now, that's where this real story begins. And my friends, that's what we're going to dive into in the next video. I'm ArnieCAP. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing.